Good morning, good afternoon. Welcome to the fourth session of our 7-part series on CRM options for enterprise nonprofits. Today's session will be focused on roundCorner's NGO Connect, where we'll be joined by Dan Lammot, founder and president of roundCorner. I'm Smita Vadakekalam, VP of Services at Heller Consulting, and I'll be your moderator for today. But before we get started with Dan, I'm going to talk a little bit about the series and provide some context. We started this series in May, talking about tips, tricks for software selection, and we invite you to look at that webinar, which is available on our website. We had Salesforce.org, then Blackbaud, and today is NGO Connect. And we also have 3 upcoming webinars with Clearview, Stratus Live, ROI Solutions. Our goal is trying to give you a well-rounded view of the options out there for enterprise-type nonprofits. Be sure to go to our website to register for upcoming webinars. This is just a little reminder of what we do at Heller. Our core expertise is working with the nonprofit sector. We've been working with the sector for over 20 years. We start with CRM strategy and design, which includes vision planning, architecture design, and a needs analysis before you implement. We also do a lot of work on the actual technical implementation of your CRM when you're ready. And all of our implementations include change management. And lastly, we also do a lot of work with organizations on after they've implemented CRM systems on how to effectively use and optimize the system to achieve your fundraising, engagement, and user adoption goals. I'm just going to cover some points briefly about the things you should be thinking about before you actually start your technology or CRM implementation. If you'd like more details on this, Keith Heller actually goes into the specifics on all of this in part 1 of our webinar series. The first step in selecting software is to establish the framework by which you will make the decision. These are the really big strategic questions that look at the future of how your organization will do its work, and they should be strongly considered before moving forward. Do you see this decision primarily as a tools solution replacement project, or is its primary purpose to generate efficiency and greater access to data? Do you have aspirations around streamlining your organization's business processes, breaking down silos, sharing data, reporting across organization, and working in a more collaborative way? This is really important, as determining this is a major factor, and I'll help you prioritize many of the sometimes difficult choices you'll have to make. Lastly, it's important you think beyond software features and system functionality that serves your needs and what you want to achieve today. It's really important to consider what you want to be able to do in the future as well. Consider, how does what you do each day serve your mission, and how could it be better served? Consider what you could do instead of just what you have done. The choices you will make now will be with you for many years, so it's imperative to look ahead to where you want to be and plan for a solution that will continue with you on that journey. What we've learned through our work over the years is that every organization has a distinct culture and set of values. So before you embark on your CRM implementation, it's really important to consider the culture of your organization, as this will impact the success of your implementation. By thinking this through, you can better manage and prepare for the change a software project implies, and it ensures a much smoother implementation and greater user adoption. So on this slide, as you can see, are some key questions you should ask your organization so you can better plan for this change. If you plan for how you'll answer these questions, you will save a lot of time, energy, and money down the road. I can talk about this topic for hours, but I don't want to take up any more of the valuable time we have for the NGO Connect demo. So if you'd like more information on this particular topic, be sure to visit part 1 of our webinar series. And as you see on this slide, we have an example. This is just an example of some of the information and resources we have available on our website. There's a lot of information, additional information on NGO Connect and CRM strategy. And finally, before I hand it off to Dan, we've worked with a large number of large organizations that have implemented NGO Connect. And as this slide shows, these are just some examples of some of them. So if you want to learn about any of these particular case studies, please be sure to contact us, and we'll happy to share the stories. So a few housekeeping items before we start. All audio lines have been muted to ensure high quality, and questions can be posted in the question box in your GoToWebinar panel. I'll be reading out the questions towards the end of the webinar. So now it's my pleasure to hand it off to Dan Lammot, co-founder and president of roundCorner. Welcome, Dan.
Hey, Smita, thank you very much for the invitation and for the introduction. And before I get into any of our content for the day, I just want to first thank the Heller team for putting this series together. I believe that this will be a really important asset for the nonprofit community at large in their process of determining which tools will work best to support their mission and fundraising efforts. And so thank you to all of the Heller participants and co-investors in this process. And I also want to just acknowledge the folks that are very busy and hard at work in the southern United States right now dealing with the challenges that the storm is bringing, and know that all of our thoughts are going out to them as well as the rest of the social good sector that's working to make our world a better place. So thanks everybody for joining today, and I'm really excited to have a brief opportunity to talk about some of the work we're doing at roundCorner in an effort to help nonprofit organizations try to make this world a better place. Our goal at roundCorner is to try to wake up every day to help people change the way they change the world. We recognize our humble part in that process is just a small piece of the massive effort that's really required given the many challenges facing humanity and the planet today. So it's something that we take very seriously, we take with great honor, and we very much look forward to continuing the best work of our lives with all of the partners in the ecosystem as well as the customers that we're so privileged to work with. So a very brief introduction to our company. We are just about to arrive at our 8th anniversary in a couple of days, which we're exceedingly proud about. And the way we go about trying to help people change the way they change the world is through working with nonprofits by bringing our technology and our people together so that they can engage their constituents and do something that we call become constituent-centered. There's nothing new about that idea. We'll talk a lot about it during the course of the day today, but we believe that there are new tools and processes and certainly a new social imperative that there's never been a better time to be in the business that we're so honored to be in. We have had the good fortune of working with over a couple of hundred organizations over the past 8 years since we've been in this market sector, having come to it from working with the same technology in the cloud and with Salesforce in the banking sector for many years prior to that. And our team continues to grow, and we continue to make significant investments in our product to try to both learn from the mistakes we've made, but also look forward to the new opportunities and challenges that present themselves as time goes on. We have a broad diversity of organizations that we work with, and the one tenet that rings true at roundCorner is that we believe that all organizations in this sector are working on causes that are well worth the time, effort, treasure, and challenge. And so we make no decisions about who we will or will not work with, and believe that our team members have the opportunity to really contribute to the efforts of some of the organizations that they care about most. And so we're very proud to be part of the Pledge 1% movement that Salesforce.org and others have contributed to ensure that our philanthropic efforts go far beyond just building technology and bringing people to the sector. One thing that we hold true, and I think the data certainly supports, is that giving is on the move. It is most definitely rising, but it's also changing vehicles and sources. And the name of our company is meant to recognize that none of us have a crystal ball to be able to see around the corner to what the future of the nonprofit sector looks like. but that through our efforts and combined with those of customers and partners, we believe we can help accelerate the prospects of being able to see around that corner. In today's connected world and in the context of our collective desire to solve some of these most pressing challenges, it's really important that we focus on engaging with constituents on a one-to-one level. There are a large number of nonprofits in the United States, and there are, while a growing number of constituents or prospective constituents, it is becoming an ever-increasing competitive market. And so now more than ever, it's important that each of the nonprofits in the sector get very focused on their mission and their message and the stories that they're able to tell, and to be able to gain and retain the support of those that trust them with some of their most precious time and treasures. Some of those that have been able to do that we admire are folks like the International Rescue Committee, who've been able to dramatically increase their online volunteer applications through the use of technology that we've been able to take a small part in. People like the League of Women Voters that have been focused on democracy since long before I was born, through improving their giving operations and their campaign success by getting better data analytics and insights into both their processes as well as the outcomes so they can make the best use of the resources. And others like the National Kidney Foundation, who are expediting both their fundraising and event processes from what used to take weeks down to days and sometimes even hours, so they have more time to spend on the things that matter most to them and their organizations. And last but certainly not least, the Sierra Club that is focused very much on our planet and our environment, and is looking forward to seeing continued growth of our products to help them steward their major donors and their online giving activities. So we believe, to wrap up our introduction, that to achieve a greater impact in the world, the constituents have to be placed at the center of your organization, and that technology can play a major part in that process. In the old world, the data has been inaccessible. It's been hidden. It may very well be there, but both the people within your organization as well as the constituents themselves don't necessarily have access to it, and that can really inhibit business operations. But in this new connected world, we propose that we all accept that it's not your data, it's not our data at roundCorner, but behind each record in your database there's a story, and that story is representative of the identity that the constituent wishes to share with you. And that by acknowledging that, we can begin to break down these data silos and leverage technology and new ideas to be able to solve some of humanity's most pressing challenges, as I've said before. And the way we go about accomplishing this is by leveraging some of the world's most innovative software platforms, most notably Salesforce, which our products are entirely natively built into, and then delivering those platforms in industry-specific and purpose-built functionality that spans what we believe are the most important business operations for nonprofits today, which include the core of constituent relationship management or constituent engagement, combining both online and offline fundraising, recognizing where the money is moving as well as where we all hope it can go in the future and become more efficient. At the same time, not ignoring development operations and the need for both high volume and reliable gift processing in a PCI compliant transactional manner. And then combining that with extendable event and volunteer management capabilities, all wrapped in reporting, analytics, and dashboards. Now, I really admire some of the other organizations that have presented prior to us, and that they have acknowledged, as well as Keith in the last session, that no one application is either right for all organizations, and no one platform or vendor has all the answers for the diversity of nonprofits that are in the space. And one of the ways that we accept that and tackle that challenge for some of our largest customers is by bringing our managed services team and our round data solution to bear in combination with NGO Connect and the Salesforce platform. And we may be able to cover that in further demonstration down the road. But without further ado, I'd like to spend some time looking at the NGO Connect application. In the time we have today, we'll touch really just the tip of the iceberg. and see how some of the detailed functionality can be brought together to represent those identities and the stories of the constituents that entrust their time and treasure with the nonprofits that choose to work with roundCorner, NGO Connect, and the Salesforce platform. So I'm going to take a look at some of the key components that we offer in constituent relationship management, including different entity types and contacts and households, their preferences and relationships, and how address management and other social and digital connection points can be brought together. We'll take a brief look at individual donations as well as corporate and foundation through online and offline giving, and see how that data is aggregated and summarized in the application for use in segmentation and marketing. And we'll get a brief look at how NGO Connect manages the base functionality of event management and volunteer management. And then if we have time, we'll cover a bit of the utilities that come along with our application, including a very large number of standard reports, each of which are customizable, and the dashboards that provide some visualization on top of that. So enough slides, as we love to say at roundCorner, and we're going to jump right into the application. Now, NGO Connect is a platinum application on the Salesforce App Exchange, which is the world's largest marketplace for applications in the business environment. And this is really important and was a very critical decision in the formation of our organization because, as I mentioned before, we believe that it takes a group of companies and a group of innovators to come together to solve both the diversity of problems, but as well as the depth that's required, especially in the enterprise nonprofits that this series is focused upon. And so we made a very deliberate decision as we organized roundCorner behind our mission to leverage what we believed then and we still believe is the world's most innovative software platform in Salesforce. And so our application is built entirely in Salesforce capabilities and delivered via the Salesforce App Exchange. And the way that it can be found is certainly through searching, but Salesforce also offers industry segments within the App Exchange. And if you navigate to the nonprofit part of the App Exchange, you'll see NGO Connect in its lightning ready form available here, where there are a host of other details available in the application. And the way that our end users get to our application is by going to a browser, going to the Salesforce login page, entering their password and username, and being able to leverage all of the layers of security and authentication that Salesforce has to offer. And once they click login, they're brought directly into the application. Our application really leverages the best that Salesforce has to offer to both the commercial space, the nonprofit space, and all other industry segments. It is built, as I've said before, natively into Salesforce and leverages what we see as the 5 key components of the platform, which include accounts, which are entities, contacts, which are people, cases, which is the service capabilities, giving, which is the Salesforce automation terminology and capability of the Salesforce platform, and really what has allowed it to launch to become the world's most innovative company so many years in a row, according to Forbes, as well as the campaign capabilities, which we leverage for a variety of different group management functions within the system. Behind the scenes are a host of development operations and operations-focused maintenance capabilities, from source code management to batch gift entry and upload, which we'll get to see in a couple of moments. But as you can see, when you land inside of NGO Connect in Salesforce, you're presented with analytics that can help you understand both where you are and where you need to focus your efforts. Your ability to see what's important today, like meetings that are upcoming, so you know where you need to be and how you need to be prepared to engage with your constituents, as well as the work that's outstanding for you directly linked to the records across the system. Like in this case, I can see that I need to invite Winston Fisher to an event as a VIP, and we'll be talking more about Winston as we get through the rest of the demo. Other things that I get to see are things like recent records, the top opportunities that are in our giving pipeline, as well as the collaboration that's happening across our organization, both between individuals that have access to the system, prospectively constituents that you enable through authentication to engage directly with you, including maintaining their own data and identities, as well as doing all of that within the context of the actual data itself. And that shows through the chatter enablement across the NGO Connect application as offered through the Salesforce platform. So I want to go back to looking at what is a constituent in NGO Connect. If I presented the hypothesis that it all comes down to becoming constituent-centered, then it makes, I think, good sense to talk about how does that become manifest in our application. And if I look for a constituent like Winston Fisher, who shows up in my recent items, you can see I can navigate very easily directly to that contact. And I'm presented with the Winston Fisher contact record. I can see that it's linked to a household where he and Jessica are grouped. I can see aggregate giving information. I can see volunteer hour information summarized, and I can see constituent coding and classification like their primary giving level. I can take a look at all of their giving history. I can see all of the multiple addresses as well as manage seasonality of addresses over time for this individual as well as the household. I can define and modify salutations, which can be associated with the other entities within the profile itself as well, to ensure that we are addressing Winston appropriately based on the source of the communication. And I can also see a critical feature of NGO Connect that we call preferences, which collapses a broad diversity of categorizations that we've seen in many legacy systems that include things like appeal preferences, benefit preferences, constituent types, as well as specific interests and classifications. And we've aggregated those concepts into a single object in our application to enable the end user to much more easily do multivariable searches across a broad span of constituent interests, preferences, and relationships so that they can get to those data elements and lists of people at their fingertips. Going down the page, we can also see all of the planned giving details, volunteer time logs, engagement with our constituent service organization, program enrollment and outcomes, and all of the campaign history, both from a giving as well as outbound marketing engagement perspective, not to mention the ability to attach and collaborate around media of any file type within the system itself. Interestingly, within these types of records, you also can see an aggregation of all of the details that may be very simple for a basic constituent, or if it's a lifetime relationship, could be quite just diverse, as in the case of Winston. In this case, we can see that he doesn't want to be called, that he's a volunteer, that he's a sustaining giver, and that he has a lifetime membership with our organization. Lots of expository details and all the data elements we would hope you would be able to expect in this context. We can also see integrations in this context and his profile with some of the applications that we often implement with our partners, including folks like KnowWho for advocacy, as well as Wealth Engine for wealth studies down the page. And you'll also see all of the contact methods that your heart will desire across telephones, emails, and addresses and social handles as well. So there should be no challenge in engaging with Winston if you're able to bring this data to light. We also, in the context of these profiles, have the ability to collaborate as a team. When anything changes with Winston, the parties of interest within our organization are notified through the chatter channel. We can also post updates directly to this channel to inform those about information that may be changing with Winston or engagement activities. When we have an opportunity to do these demos in person, we're able to demonstrate that via Siri capabilities on an iPhone or other voice-enabled services, you can log call reports directly to contact records straight within a mobile phone, which is a great feature set offered by both these platforms as well as the Salesforce platform. So if we're able to see everything we could possibly know about Winston, including how to contact him and what he likes and what he doesn't like and how he would like to be engaged, it's also just as important to know how Winston is related to other entities and people within the span of our NGO Connect application. And in this case, I can see through the relationships that Winston was educated at Harvard, that his partner is Jessica Eccles, that his sibling is Jill, that his employer is with the Fisher Brothers organization, that he's a member of the Fisher Family Foundation, and that he's on the board of Verizon Communications. And irrespective of which direction a user views these relationships, they will always be able to see the reciprocal people and entity-based relationships in a single place. And we think that's critical because it makes it both easy for the end users to understand how these relationships are interconnected, but it also makes the data maintenance of these relationships very simple from a systems perspective and an end user perspective, which is really key to adoption. So when I take a look at Winston and I notice that he's related to Jessica, you can see that I can very easily navigate to the household where they're aggregated. Some of our customers operate the majority of their business at a household level, others do it at a contact level. And NGO Connect offers the ability to have all of the capabilities I've demonstrated thus far engage both at individual contact and or at household levels, which is a major differentiator of our technology. In this case, you can see if I look at the Winston, Fisher, and Jessica Eccles household, I have aggregate giving information, I have primary contact details, and I can also see all of the other people that are related in this account, not just Jessica, who's his partner, but I can also see their children in Jackie and Jamie. If you were to view the entirety of the relationships in this context, you might see people like trustees, attorneys, and other affiliate relationships as well. And one of the great things about NGO Connect is that it allows you to not just put all of this data into lists where it has to be read by end users, but if we go pick up an individual contact like Becky Hornbaum, as another example, you can come into the application and be able to visualize those relationships so that you can see in a social graph context how all of the people and entities are related together within the application. I've chosen a deliberately hyper-connected constituent, so I can show you some interesting functionality that comes along with this that's only available with NGO Connect. The first and my favorite is to be able to say, if I would like to get from Becky Hornbaum to Larry Smith, as an example, I can trace the connections in our application directly through using trace connections in our managed relationships. And if I wanted to take those individuals and invite them to a specific event, all I have to do is drag straight across them and invite them to a celebration dinner. And now they're immediately added to that campaign and off to our marketing engagement activities within the application. These are a couple of features that are especially loved by folks in major gifts and in prospect management within our customer base. So if I know who our contacts are and I'm able to see who the people within the household are, and I can see them according to their preferences, their engagement potential across both traditional direct mail capacity and seasonal addresses, as well as through digital means all the way up through and into social. I can check how they're all related together. And then I've been able to understand that within this application, I really can allow both the organization to record and manage these relationships the way they wish to be seen inside of NGO Connect. And I can also leverage the capabilities of Chatter to be able to have the organization engage around these relationships as well. One of the really fantastic features that comes along with NGO Connect is something that we call action plans, because it's one thing to record this data and be able to understand who the relationships are. It's another to be able to act upon it within the context of the constituent relationship. And so within the context of any record within NGO Connect, you're able to both establish as well as engage action plans. And here you can see I can create a new action plan based on a template. In this case, I'm going to assume that Winston is a major donor prospect. And so I'll add a major gift prospect action plan, and you can see that we'll create all of the detailed records for that specific set of template-based engagement within our application. And it will create a series of dependent tasks that will be initiated after the preceding activity is created. And these can be assigned both to the owner of a specific record or users or queues within our application as well, so that the end user doesn't have to think through all of the specific details of those assignments. And the final thing that's really interesting about the NGO Connect action plans is that instead of having to run a major manual or planning process through a specific portion of the year, perhaps at the end of your fiscal year or your calendar year, these action plans can be auto-generated at the periodicity that you see fit. So for example, if this action plan were run this year and I set it up to be reinitiated annually, then next year at the prescribed time, that action plan would be regenerated for this specific contact and any other contact that it was associated to. And that would allow me to not have to manage that operational process and know that the constituent engagement activities would take place as I saw fit at the time of planning. So it's a small feature, but one that can take a significant amount of effort out of an organization. So one of the keys to be able to manage an enterprise nonprofit is to be able to manage giving. And NGO Connect imagines giving across 4 primary capabilities. Those capabilities include online giving, offline giving through batch gift upload, typically managed through some type of data file entry or file upload process. The third method is through batch gift entry through a high velocity interface. And last but not least is what we sort of tongue-in-cheek call long division gift entry. And I'll give you a quick tour of each of these capabilities within our application. To give you an example of online giving, if you are able to come to the campaign object, you'll see that I have an example in here for a web form campaign. And we use the campaign capabilities of the platform for this because it allows us to both do aggregation of the outbound efforts as well as capture all of the inbound efforts that are aggregated, both in terms of response rates as well as in terms of the revenue that comes in via these channels. So if I navigate to a web form campaign and I go to our design form capabilities, we're presented with 3 different functions within the NGO Connect form designer. First is the view state, which is essentially what the constituent sees if they navigate to your website. And this is a sample for a fictitious nonprofit called the Imagine Workshop. And you can see we have gift information that allows for different amounts and one payments or monthly types. Donation form or donor information that spans the gamut of the constituent details. Payment information and payment blocks that integrate with any one of the 7 PCI compliant NGO Connect payment integrations. And we have visual capabilities like Jumbotron images as well as different capabilities like small images and different text sizes and fonts. Within this context, you can also create strings of forms like donation forms to thank you pages, donation forms to volunteer registration forms, etc. And that allows you the capability to build these forms into a flow. And in this case, I have a very simple flow that demonstrates upon submission, it will be redirected to a thank you page. We execute the payment processing, and then we refresh the data and save all of that into the NGO Connect application. And you can see that you can do this by dragging and dropping and just adding new components. And interestingly, this is all built using mobile responsive capabilities. And you can see that I can actually do this from a mobile phone or an iPad during my commute if I see fit. And the editing capabilities are also drag and drop, where you're able to pull different components around the page and not just drop capabilities, but also be able to inject the forms with custom JavaScript and callouts to other applications. So that's a quick view of the first capability of NGO Connect for online giving. The second capability is through batch gift entry. And we've leveraged some of the scalable and innovative capabilities that Salesforce offers through their Heroku platform to be able to deliver a really different interface for batch gift entry, as many organizations require to be able to bring giving data and or any constituent inbound data into the application. Within NGO Connect's batch gift entry capabilities, you're able to have any number of batches, any number of batch templates And you're able to see those up to 10,000 at a time within any individual page and with pagination, excuse me. And within these batched templates, you're able to define the number of items and the expected value, and then enter those details on the fly without ever touching the keyboard. And just to do a simple example, if I hit enter on a record that I've already entered, you'll see that on the right-hand side, I'm presented with Anna Hui and her information directly from NGO Connect. If I make that search a bit broader, with a name that's a bit more common, let me come to a new record, you'll see that I'm presented with all of the different options, and I can continue to refine until I found the records that I expect to find. And all of these items will aggregate in real time so that I know that my batch will foot out before I expect it to process. What happens behind the online giving capabilities and the batch gift entry is our first two examples bring us to the third, which is that in the vast majority of the organizations that we work with, especially with the major enterprises, most of the data is coming in through batch file processing. Often, if not in nearly every case, our round data and managed services capabilities are utilized to bring that data into the back end of the application, which is what we call batch uploads. And our batch upload capability is effectively a very simple but very broad table that allows for an organization to upload or process all of the information that could come in from essentially nearly any source. In this case, I showed you the online donation pages, then I showed you the batch gift entry capabilities. Both of those feed our batch upload records within the application, which allows you to process these either in near real time or on a scheduled batchable basis. And I'm happy to share if anybody would like details on a one-to-one basis about the large data volume and enterprise scalability testing that we do at roundCorner to determine what the benchmarks are for the application today. And that continues to be an area of significant investment for our product team. So the batch upload, which can be fed through integrations again, or through batch gift entry or the online donation forms, includes constituent details, preference information, product information, honorarium details, advocacy details, address, contact methods, as well as multiple contacts, and it can also handle up to 10 soft credits, among many other things. Because this is built into an NGO Connect object, this object can also be expanded through customizations and can target the objects that we allow for in our batch gift entry, which include the accounts, contacts, giving campaigns, payment methods, and a couple of others that we could get to in detail if it's of interest for you as well. So those cover the three first methods, but once the giving is in the application, or if it's an organization that has a tendency to enter some gifts or some highly complicated gifts by hand, those can be put directly into our giving wizard. And if I go back to an account, you'll see that the way that happens is by navigating to an account or a contact and entering a new giving record. And when I enter a new giving record, all I really need to do is put in an amount, put in a date, and ensure that it's associated to the appropriate campaign. In this case, I'm going to say that it's a $50 monthly sustaining donation, and I'm going to attach this to a membership campaign. And once I've done that, I can click Save, and the application is going to go off and create all of the associated records, including the forward-looking transactions that are going to be able to be picked up by charge processing. We can automatically include associations to payment methods that are connected to the account and tokenized with the payment integration. And then I'm presented with details about the transactions, the items, which include the ability to automatically associate specific items or packages based on giving information. And in this case, you can see we've created 12 forward-looking transactions, each a month ahead of today. And if we were to fast forward 3 months just to demonstrate how this works, you'd see that we'll actually take a look at that pipeline amount of $600, which are $50 a month over a 12-month span, and we're able to recalculate what's been closed, what's in the pipeline, as well as what's been committed in real time within the application. We also have the ability to add new payments, refund all of this gift if we so fit, or suspend or complete the transactions as well. We found in the early versions of our product that many of the customers' service issues and the constituent service issues that were manifest were people that had to remember a lot of special circumstances for constituents, whether it was adding gift information, suspending gifts over time, et cetera. And so we built quite a bit of capability into the application to allow people to do that right at the point of dialogue with a constituent and allow the system to take care of it when the time comes. Our sustaining gift capabilities are geared towards what we, I think, all recognize as a very important and growing aspect of giving within the United States, which is the recurring giving streams that are happening and growing certainly more with the onset and the continued growth of online and digital giving, which is why we focus so much on ensuring that NGO Connect is a PCI compliant application and has a diversity of payment integrations that are available for people to connect to. So that covers really the 4 major capabilities of gifts within the application. Just to give you a very quick view as well, and make sure that you see these capabilities, NGO Connect also handles things like in-kind giving, specific membership gifts, outright gifts. We allow for purchases and e-commerce integrations as well as corporate and foundation giving, each of which has its own flavor of capability within the application, and each of which has its own customization capabilities within the application as well. So we've been able to cover the overall constituent capabilities and how the application is able to consume gift data across both online and as well as batch processing and upload channels. But I also want to get a chance to take a look at how the capability around campaigns works within the platform. We believe that aside from the giving engagement channels, that event participation and volunteer participation are the 2 next best measures of a constituent's relationship with a nonprofit. And so we have native event management capabilities and volunteer application capabilities within NGO Connect offered as standard with the product. In this case, we have an event, and if I edit this record to give you a sense of some of the detailed functionality just as a quick preview, you really can manage complicated events, including multi-day conferences or multi-session conferences across multiple venues, as well as simple events like dinners at a major donor's house. In this case, you can see we've got details about a specific venue, including registration and wait list limits. We can track things like tickets and items and allow for those tickets and items to be purchased via our form capabilities within the application. You can even track meal preferences and allow for group registration, which is really key for being able to drive event participation. And my 2 favorite parts of our event management application are first, the mobile and public check-in feature, which is just accessible via a click of a button or a URL. And this requires a connected device, but you can see it's mobile responsive and works on a phone, an iPad, or any laptop browser. And when a person arrives at an event, they can go in, share their name, and all the person has to do is tap out their name. And in this case, we'll pick John Wade, and you can see that the type forward automatically trims down the person, and they just tap check-in, and that's it. If they show up unannounced, we can come in and enter a new person. We can even search across the entire database with a couple of clicks and a tap to be able to go pick someone that exists, select that person, and register them for the event if it's an open registration. And all of this is happening directly on top of the contact records that we've been seeing through the rest of the demonstration. So one of my favorite moments has been attending in an attempt to support some of our customers, attending their gala evenings and seeing rows of laptops at the registration table with this screen up on it. It's been a really proud moment to be able to see that in the past. And my second favorite feature is the seating charts that come with the NGO Connect events application. In this case, we have a large venue, and all I have to do is click that layout, and I'm taken to a customizable drag and drop seating and visual interface where I can move the podium around, and anybody that's registered, I can just drag straight to a seat at a table, and you'll see that those tables are filling up with just a couple of drag and drop clicks. That information can be saved, shared, and executed upon once the event takes place. So that's a very quick preview of our NGO Connect events capabilities. Within campaigns, we also, as I mentioned before, have a volunteer management capability. And it's one thing to be able to track, volunteer and plan for and execute volunteer activities, but it's another to be able to use the form and registration capabilities within the application to be able to manage registration and track online entry of hours, which can be a critical measure of overall engagement and a really important metric in seeking and acquiring funding and reporting outcomes. So the application offers those capabilities as native as part of NGO Connect as well. So if you spend all this time and effort curating and entering data and leveraging these capabilities, opening it up to your entire team prospectively, or even allowing the application to be leveraged by your constituents to manage their own details like logging volunteer hours, you're going to need to be able to report and analyze that information so you get those insights that you can act upon. Some of those come through operational capabilities like our batch upload dashboards, which are aimed at making sure that you don't leave any money on the table through your batch upload processing. In this case, we can see what was processed, what failed, and what needs to be addressed in the course of development operations. And we also ship the product with things like a planned giving dashboard, so you can see the planned giving pipeline, how many gifts are expected or realized over a quarterly basis or any period that makes sense for your analysis, and great pipeline and moves management dashboard capabilities like this, where I'm able to come in and navigate directly through the records themselves, look at our performance against goals, understand why things may be at a particular stage, and then also drive directly through that dashboard component to a detailed report that allows me to specifically understand what's happening with that record that may not be in a specific state of operation that I would expect it to. And if you're able to bring these insights and these capabilities together, some of the new features that are on their way out with NGO Connect's next release under Safe Harbor are some of the lightning-ready capabilities that Salesforce allows us to take advantage of. And one of my favorites is the ability to come look at the giving pipeline and not just see that in gift form and sort the records and act upon it as I would in a normal course of reporting, but also be able to come in and view that in the Kanban mode and drag and drop records from stage to stage instead of going in and entering pick list values as I used to in the old world. So some great new capabilities coming with the lightning ready version of NGO Connect as well. So to summarize, because we're about to run out of time and I want to make sure that there's some time left for questions, is our goal in trying to change the way people change the world is to bring together the constituent management capabilities with online and offline fundraising, and the other two major capabilities around event management and volunteer management, all wrapped in the reporting and insights and delivered on any platform by leveraging the platform agnostic advantages that Salesforce offers, so that our nonprofit customers can hopefully become more constituent centered raise more resources, and have better execution around their mission. So with that, I'm going to stop talking, say a very quick thank you, and open the floor up for questions.
Great. Thank you so much, Dan, for that great presentation and demo. As you mentioned, we have a few more minutes. We have some time for questions. So if you have questions, please post them on the question panel on the GoToWebinar panel, and I will read them out. So we have one quick question here for you, Dan. Is NGO Connect cloud-based?
That's a great question. It is 100% cloud-based. The application is built, if I jump up a couple of slides, natively using Salesforce capabilities and delivered 100% in the cloud via the Salesforce App Exchange. So short answer is yes, and long answer is a longer yes.
Great. Okay, I have another question that just came in. Both NPSP and NGO Connect are on the Salesforce platform. What is the difference between NGO Connect and NPSP?
Well, that's an excellent question, and there are many differences, but there are also many similarities. And one of the most important similarities is that both applications believe that by founding themselves in the Salesforce platform capabilities and the consistent stream of innovation that comes from Salesforce proper, we're able to deliver more value to the nonprofits that choose to work with our applications. So most importantly is that key similarity. One of the major differences is that at roundCorner and with NGO Connect, our primary target market focus is on the mid-market and the large enterprise organizations. Our application, as hopefully you gathered today, has a significant footprint. It covers a broad array of functional areas, all packaged in the same application. And when coupled with either our partner services or roundCorner's Round Data and Managed Services, really it's built to serve the needs of the organizations that have a higher degree of complexity and typically a much higher level of revenue across a diversity of online and offline channels, as well as a diversity of engagement strategies that range from traditional direct marketing to high-powered and multi-channel online marketing, and a diversity of other activities like advocacy and the like that we rely on partners to deliver.
Great. Thank you, Dan. I'd like to also mention, along with Dan's answer, to further look into that, the differences between the two. We have a paper in our resources list that goes into detail about both. Also, since we're doing these webinar series, we have this, obviously, this webinar to reference, and also the one on NPSP, if you want to further look into this. Let's see. We think we have time. Give it a few more minutes. See, another question has come in here. Follow-up question to this is if NGO Connect is ready to go out of the box, or do we need to do any pre-planning, or is it turn on and go?
That's a great question. I would love for any CRM and fundraising application to be turn on and go. But NGO Connect, much like every other enterprise-capable application in the market, it's all about the planning and execution. As much innovation as we try to deliver in NGO Connect via Salesforce, the delivery of the project and the movement and transitioning of the data and the user adoption efforts that are required are really the lion's share of the energy that goes into these prospective enterprise transitions to the cloud and to NGO Connect. So, while I'd love for it to be turn on and go, and there are many organizations that we implement nearly out of the box, one of the key decisions we made in working with Salesforce as our underlying platform is a general acknowledgement that that's a bit of a myth, and everybody has slightly their own way of doing things. But we have tried to take some of the very large choices away from the process, while we still are open to choices within these areas and can integrate with nearly any application that has an API. The choices we made to deliver native online donation form capabilities, native event management, and native volunteer management are meant to get organizations to that starting line of being live much faster than they might otherwise be if they have to go evaluate all of those capabilities independently and go through independent selection and contracting processes. So we don't intend to, nor will we ever cover everything, because we don't think that works and we don't think that's a possibility. We do try to provide 80% plus of the core of what we see as core and common within the industry as of today.
I just want to add, I 100% agree with that answer, working with many different platforms. If for any of them that serve the enterprise nonprofit market, none are ready to go out of the box. So that is common to many. So thank you, Dan. We have one more, I think we have time for one more question here. Can automated emails be triggered and sent to constituents by transaction event, such as donation or event registration?
Absolutely. One of the strong suits of the platform that we build with is its workflow and automation capabilities. It really is an event-based platform, and so any triggering event can result in nearly any outcome. And it could be, automating outbound communications like acknowledgments. It could be thanking somebody for registering. It can also be a negative, like please tell us why you didn't do something, and offer alternatives as well. But Salesforce, as an underlying platform, offers incredibly strong workflow enablement and automation capabilities around processes, including the key area of your question, which is automating communications with constituents.
Great. Thank you so much, Dan. I think we are now just about out of time. I am just going to show my screen for a second to show some contact information for Dan. As you can see, Dan's, if you have any questions for Dan, it's located here. And if you have any questions for Heller, you'll see my email. But I would like to thank everyone for participating today, especially for Dan for a fantastic presentation. And I just want to remind everyone that the recording will be sent to you by the end of the week. And once again, if you have any questions, our contact information is up here on the screen. Thank you again and have a wonderful day, everyone.